Hello, this is Robert, one of the librarians at Lindenhurst Memorial Library, and this is the tutorial for the recycled book Snowflake decoration. To start, I'm going to make sure that everyone has all the supplies and tools that they'll need. Everyone will be given a little kit with some of the basics. You'll get some paper from an old book. You'll get a little baggie with a clothespin and some fishing wire to tie some things up for the ornament. What you will also need is a hot glue gun with some glue. Make sure you get some glue, have some glue on hand. A ruler, scissors, and a pen to mark on the book when you measure it out. So to start the craft, the first thing you're going to have to do is measure out the strips you're going to need that make the petals of the snowflake. So the strips are, the standard is 1 inch long, so you're going to measure out by inch on your book pages. So I just put it here to start from the edge and go in and just mark every inch on one side to get as many strips out of the page as you can. 5 is a safe bet. Some books can get 6, depending on how big they are. So I have one side marked on the edge, 1 inch marks, and then what I'm going to do is on the other side mark the same way, 1 inch from one side, from this side, inch, 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 and inch. Like I said, most books will definitely get 5. Some could get 6, depending on how easy it is to cut at that part. So now that we have it marked 1 inch on both sides, you're going to draw lines from across the points so that you can essentially mark out your strips where you're going to cut. It doesn't have to be super even, you know. Best you can do. Get all of these strips. So now I have essentially these strips lined out on the book. You're going to get a bunch of pages, a little more than what you're going to need, but you know, it's just in case you mess up. So you can take a bunch of pages together and cut like that. You can even strip the book even further at first and like cut it out so that the binding is gone. If you have a cutter as opposed to scissors, that could make it even more easier. But most people are just going to have scissors. So what you're going to do is you're going to take some pages, you know, however comfortable you feel with it, the scissors being able to cut, and you're just going to cut along the line. To get these strips. I'll include written instructions. For each strip, it is recommended that it be 5 pages long. So you count 5 little of these thinner strips. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this would be 1 strip. It's 5 pages, it's 1 strip. You are going to need 7 of these strips for each petal you create on the snowflake. There are 8 petals in total. So you will need 7 strips for 8 petals, So that's 7 times 8, which is 56. So you're going to need 56 of these strips. And also note that there's 5 pages in each strip, so we've multiplied that. So that's how many of these actual strips you're going to need cut out of the books. And like I said, I counted the pages. Like, you should have enough, with some extra to spare in case you mess up on some things. And then once you have all your strips cut out, you're going to start measuring different sizes of the strips. So I have 7 strips laid out in front of me from my big pile of strips that I cut. Like I said, you might want to do all your cutting first. So you have to make enough of the 7 strips for all 8 petals. And then also you're going to want 1 extra strip to make the center circle for the actual decoration for the snowflake. So I got 7 strips. This is what all goes into 1 petal. So 1 strip is going to be left alone. It's going to be the height that it is. So you take one and just put it aside, your first strip. Your next 2 are going to be a ½ an inch shorter than the original strip. So you're going to measure out ½ an inch from the top, for 2 strips, remember, it doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be perfect, but just get it as close as possible. So that's ½ an inch. Cut that off. ½ an inch. Cut that off. So I have these 2 strips that are ½ an inch shorter. Get rid of this extra. So the next 2 strips are going to be 1 inch off. So measure 1 inch from the top. One inch from the top. Make sure all the layers are even. And cut the inch off. One inch off. And now you have 2 left, which we are going to take 2 inches off. So from the top, 2 inches. From the top, 2 inches. And cut. And cut. So that's 2 inches. So that's 1 normal, 1 standard size straight from the book, 1 with ½ an inch, 2 with ½ an inch off, I'm sorry, 2 with 1 inch off, and 2 with 2 inches off. Now, mind you, these are just kind of like the general instructions to make a standard size of these decorations. You are more than welcome to feel free, if you feel like you know what you're doing, to vary the lengths. If you want it smaller, you can cut more than that amount of inches off. You do have to leave room so that they can all fit, and I'll show you if you want to watch the tutorial all completely first. They don't even have to be this thick. They don't have to be 1 inch wide. They could be 3/4 of an inch wide. It really all depends on how big you want the snowflake decoration. So I have all my strips here right now. So what we're going to start now is how to kind of start forming the petal. So you take the 1 standard size strip and you kind of bow it like this so the bottoms meet. and then you take the next longest ones, the two that you only cut half an inch off, and you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to bow them, and then you're going to put them on either side of the longest one. Like this. And it's going to keep like that. And you're going to keep doing it with the next two. They're going to go on the outsides. You want to make sure they're about as even as possible. I mean, they can look a little funky, it's up to you, but it's never going to be perfect. And then the final strips on the outside, the smallest ones. And you just want to be careful, because this is where it can start getting tricky. You just got to make sure you hold them all together while you're putting them together. It can be a lot, but once you get a knack for handling it, it'll come naturally, especially after you do 7 more of these. So you have one of the petals right here. You want to make sure that they're even on the bottom, so try and like kind of make sure when you're folding them that the bottom is nice and even, because you're going to have to glue it onto a flat surface, and if it's uneven it might not be as good. So just make sure that all the paper is as flush as possible. So now you have one petal. This is how it's going to look on the snowflake decoration. So I provided you with a clothespin in your little kit, and the clothespin, it's a little clothespin, but it's just to hold the actual thing together while you take the string that I also provided the fishing wire to tie off the stem of the decoration, so it stays together. So you're just going to wrap it around, and you can wrap it around a couple times. I gave you about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet of string. You know, it's only going to be a couple of inches per petal. So I mean, there's room to mess around with it and just make sure it's secure. So just wrap it around a couple times, and what you want to do is knot it off. This can be a tricky part too. Whatever best practice suits you and how to get this tied around. So I have it knotted around the stem. Just cut the piece off. So it's like together like that. I can take this off. It's secure. So this is one petal. So now you have to create 7 more just like this, and then we can start putting it together. Okay, so now that we have all 8 of the petals made and tied off, we're going to start creating the center, and then eventually we'll move on to gluing the petals onto the center. Some of you may have had some trouble with tying off these. I know it's very tough to do with the very thin fishing wire. So just secure the if it doesn't work for you, just try and secure the leaves another way, the pieces of the petal. You know, if you want to use something else to tie it together, if you want to use like a glue stick and just make sure the pages are all stuck together, while haphazardly tied, you know, just to make sure they stay in one shape, like this. So now we're going to roll up. I said to put one strip of the 5 layers of paper aside, full length, and we're going to roll it up. Nice and even, nothing sticking out on the sides, as best as you can, nice and tight. And then what you can do is you can honestly just secure it with a piece of tape or the clothespin that is provided to you, like how you held the other ones together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tie just like we did with the petals. You're going to tie around so that it stays rolled up with the fishing wire. So now it's all tied up. Cut the loose string. Alright, so now we are ready to actually construct our decoration, the snowflake itself. So make sure you have a glue gun. Mine's just warming up right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take one of the petals and you're going to essentially glob a bunch of glue onto the base. Like I said, you wanted to keep the base as flush as possible with each of the bottoms of the different leaves of the petal. So I'm just going to apply. Make sure you get all the nooks and crannies. And quickly bring it to the roll. Stick it on there. So now we got one of the petals on there. So now what we're going to do is we're essentially going to create a cross with 3 other petals. So we're going to have one on top, one coming at the bottom, and then the 2 on the sides. Repeat the process. Glue up the bottoms. Opposite way. sides. Last one for the cross. As I said before, be generous with the glue, get all the nooks and crannies. You want to make sure this thing is secure and stays on. See, so now is essentially a cross. Glue is fairly dry. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as you get it in that kind of area. Because what we're going to do next, we have the 4 more petals, and we're going to stick them in between, in the corners. Glue. And stick it in the corner. This is where you're packing it out with the glue, because it's not going to be on the actual edge of the center. It's going to be kind of mushed into the corner. Keep going until all of them are on. So you got 6 right on here right now. Go into the other corners. It's getting a little tight. Okay, and for the last one. glue stick. So now you have, it's all together. It's fairly sturdy. If you have any gaps or anything, you could fill it in with the glue stick, the glue gun, just to make sure it kind of all stays together. And then you clean it up after if you want. Peel pieces off that kind of stick out, a little eyesore-ish. Or just have one side kind of globbed on the other side if it's more neat. And we're also gonna hot glue the edges of every leaf so that they kind of stay together. Even though they're kind of crammed together, you just kind of glue the edges that touch with another petal and just kind of make sure they're even. And just glue them together so they stay together. Just go around with all of them. Hot glue gun can get messy. If you can't see it on here, it's all stringy, but dries quickly and can easily just be brushed off and picked up. Okay. Last leaf. Petal, I should say, last petal. It is a snowflake after all. Alright, so this is the recycled book, snowflake decoration. It's a little big for an ornament. I don't know how big your tree is, but it can be hung on a tree, especially if you can kind of like adapt to the directions where you make everything a little smaller. It's absolutely doable. You know, it can look a little crooked. It's a little crooked in some spots, but that can be a result as of uneven cutting with different, you know, it's not everything's going to be exactly an inch. You know, it's a handmade craft. So you can tie some string, some fish wire on top, one of the top loops, and just like hang it. You can put it up on your tree, like I said, or maybe just like hang it on the wall on your window. You can just like set it up. It can just like lean against something. It's a nice craft. But yeah, so there you go.